All right, so Red Bull need to promote Yuki and they need to promote him now. At the latest, they should promote him after next race, but I think they should promote him after Monaco because Red Bull are in a crisis right now, and I think Yuki's the only solution. So let's go. Let's get to it. To start off with, I've always been bearish on Yuki. I just don't like him as a person. I think he's really rude and abrasive. I don't like when people who make a lot more money than other people yell at other people who make less money, right? And as a driver, he makes a lot of money yelling at race engineers. I don't like it. So I've always been bearish on Yuki. I made a video recently where I talked about Yuki's problems. As you can see, the Yuki fans were not huge fans of that. I got 3 likes and a bunch of hate for it. And my argument was basically this: is that Yuki's problem seems to be that he performs really well in qualifying, but isn't able to then match that performance within a race. I always thought it was primarily because he's immature, and he just kind of spirals out of control over 68 laps. I had like a much more extensive Excel sheet about this, but I can't seem to find it. But this year he's turned it around, and like there's really no other way to look at it. So in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia he did really poorly, but Australia he qualified 8th, he finished 7th. Japan he finished where he qualified. China was just a bad race for him. But then Miami he qualified 10th, finished 7th. Imola 7th, 10th, and Monaco 8th, 8th. The guy has been consistent, and also like if you think about where the Red Bull 2 car is on the grid, so the way the rankings go right now, pretty clearly, is you still have Red Bull above everyone else. Then you have Ferrari and McLaren as 2, 3. Then you have Mercedes. You have Aston Martin as 5, and then you have Red Bull as number 6. Right, so those 5 teams have 10 drivers, right? So the fact that he's able, even though he's clearly, in terms of driver and car, 11th on the grid, the fact that he's consistently able to get 8th and 7th is a testament to what he's able to do with that car. And he's performing very well. So, like, if you look at Red Bull 2, in total they have 24 points, and 19 of those are coming from Yuki, which is insane if you think about how experienced Daniel Ricardo is as a driver. The fact that Daniel Ricardo is only able to account for, 20% of the points for Red Bull 2, while Yuki has 80% of the points. And not just that, like Red Bull 2 could theoretically and very feasibly beat Aston Martin this year. They're 20 points behind, but if you look at their performance over the past 3 races, they got 4 points, 1 point, and 12 points, while Aston Martin got 4 points. It's very feasible that if Yuki Tsunoda stays at Red Bull 2, he's beating Aston Martin pretty much single-handedly, while Aston Martin, actually, Stroll and Alonso are kind of like putting up similar amounts of points recently. So that fact alone is insane. If you just look at like Aston Martin's budget versus Red Bull 2's budget and resources dedicated to it, the fact that Red Bull 2 is in contention for 5th place is a testament to how amazing Yuki is. But then you also just look at his individual standings, right? He has 19 points. Fernando Alonso has 33, right? So he could feasibly beat Alonso. I don't think he's going to beat Lewis Hamilton, but the fact that he can end up 9th, again, in the 6th best car in Formula 1 is an astonishing feat. What else do you really need to see from him? I think one of the problems with Red Bull that they have towards him, and this is a problem that I kind of had towards him, it's a very fair critique, is that he was basically forced upon Red Bull through their Honda partnership back in 2019. Basically, it seems that Honda was just like, you need to bring a Japanese driver, and they were like, okay, cool, we have 4 seats, we're just going to put him in one of our 4 seats, right? And they never really expected him to be as good as he is, but because he got that shield from Honda, he was really able to develop, and now it is clear that he is a good driver. So maybe like he wasn't back then, maybe he was forced on you back then and you don't like it, but the truth is at this moment right now, he is an incredible driver on the grid, and there's no question that if you put him in a substantially better car that can actually perform on track, and in a better team as well, I think that, let's say he was in a McLaren, I think you'd have more points than Fernando, and I think you'd have more points than Lewis easily, and I think you'd have more points than George Russell as well. And the problem is that Checo, we actually see this objectively, and Checo is not performing, right? So look at his last two races. Checo qualified 11th at Imola, and he finished eighth, and then he qualified 16th in Monaco, and he retired. Right, and the thing is, this isn't 2023. So like in 2023, like this was kind of like cute and funny, where Checo like the entire year was like missing Q3, and people are like, oh, Checo's in the hot seat, but then he ends up getting like sixth place or fifth place, right? And because of the force of the Red Bull car, he was able to finish in second. But like the important thing to remember about 2023 and Checo is that there was no actual pressure on Checo at all. Max Verstappen, if you look at this, he scored 575 points last year. Mercedes scored 409 points. Max Verstappen could have single-handedly beaten these teams, right? So it didn't matter what was happening with Checo, right? But other teams this year are real teams where like both drivers are scoring actual points from race to race, and we are really in an emergency right now. Like Max Verstappen is only 31 points up on Charles Leclerc, and he's only 56 points on Lando Norris, right? If he gets a retirement in a race, which he already did this year, and by the way, in Monaco he got 8 points, which is pretty close to retirement, right? Like if he gets one retirement, right, and you just keep the points steady, he's now up 6 points on Charles Leclerc. Do you really feel confident about that? And not only that, like look at Red Bull. Red Bull's 24 points up on Ferrari. So if Max Verstappen keeps on faltering in races, and it's not his fault, it's just the car isn't as good as it was last year. It isn't as good relative to the rest of the field as it was last year, right? So he's not able to single-handedly win it. Other teams have real teams, and we need to put a really good driver in that number 2 spot, and I don't see anybody else besides Yuki Tsunoda really being an option this year. Checo Perez is faltering like he did last year, and Yuki Tsunoda is taking Daniel Ricciardo's lunch money, so why are we even entertaining that as an option? So yeah, Yuki has beaten every driver that we've put him with, and he's like a good driver. Give him a chance. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on